So how come historical records and detailed accounts from eyewitnesses are enough to convince you Socrates is real, but not enough for Jesus? What gives? We are really going to go here. This is the topic for today. Yeah, I think we should discuss this. It seems pretty hypocritical, man. Really? You calling something hypocritical? That's a laugh. What does that mean? I'm just saying, you got this whole rules for thee, but not for me thing going on. As much as I like it when you two argue, let me dig into this. So from what I have read, it seems there are a few key reasons for doubting the existence of Socrates. The first that comes to mind is some historical scholars think that Plato used Socrates as a mouthpiece for his own views. Just trying to use his celebrity status. I'd go so far as to say those who wrote down accounts of Jesus may have done the same. You can't prove that. You're right. And right now, I am not trying to. But Socrates is said to be a real figure from the 5th century Athens. Could both not be the same, real and a little made up? He was real. But as a celebrity in his times, and probably with very little fact-checking available, Plato may have utilized his notoriety to try to push his own views. Make them more acceptable. Get them out there to the pop. But why would he do that? What would be his point? I could only hazard a guess. And since I am neither a historical scholar or have much experience in philosophy, but maybe the same reason people used to think George Washington once confessed to cutting down the cherry tree. I cannot tell a lie. Yeah, that whole little story, about him lying to his father. I think they call it a fabricated myth. It seems that Mason Weems invented it. He's some biographer who released a 5th edition and included this to make George Washington seem more honorable. But from what we can find, the tale first appeared around 1800 after his death. Why would the biographer do this? Push his own agenda. But we know George Washington was real. Yeah, he was real. We have a bunch of documents on that. And a bunch of us were taught as youngsters that this was real. Or at least I was. Maybe the teachers knew it was false, but in elementary school, we are taught this. You gotta wonder why. Because they don't want us to lie. They wanted to give us a good role model. But what does this have to do with Socrates? I think he's trying to explain it to why Plato might use Socrates, a real person, as his mouthpiece. It's not that hard to follow if you're a little open-minded. I am listening, and I get what he's saying. So are you telling me that you think Socrates was made up as well? As well? Like Jesus was? Blasphemer! No, that's not what I meant. Stop twisting things. I meant as well as one of those people who don't believe Socrates was real. I'm getting there. Another issue is contradictory accounts. His students, Plato and Xenophon, as well as other contemporaries of the time, they give accounts that differ from each other. They don't really put him in the same light. Plato portrays Socrates as a wise philosopher, while Aristophanes mocks him as a charlatan, portrays him as pretentious. We get differing versions of Jesus as well, different accounts. Like when he rides into that one of those last places. Jerusalem, Galileo, I can't remember what it was. But one account says he rode in on a horse. Another says a donkey. You tell me, which one of those is real? Are they both true? If differing accounts exist, they are either mistakes or done on purpose. I can't tell you which one it was. Those aren't really contradictions. Different writers focus on different things that they thought were important to be shared. And of course, people can interpret and see things differently. And the same could be said for Socrates. His students, his apprentices, they could have focused on different aspects of his life, were with him at different times during his learned career. This could be true for both Socrates and Jesus. And like with Jesus, we have the final item I have heard, or one of the final items. It's kind of, oh yeah? What's that? I'm sorry, I was just feeling a little left out of the conversation. I was getting there. Sometimes I think I'm only here for comedic effect. You are here because you annoy me, and you are not funny. You are here because you're one of us, and you are... Anywho, Socrates left behind no writings. As influential as he is said to have been, none of his own works, written by his own hand, survived to modern times. Much like Jesus, we have plenty of stories. A lot of them are taken into the Bible, some are non-canon gospels, but plenty of stories about him. Where is Jesus' gospel? Where are his teachings? Like, are you saying Socrates is fake then, but you still follow his teachings anyways? How am I following Socrates' teachings? I barely remember them. It's philosophy, and yes, he has influenced philosophy. If Socrates was not real, his lessons still hold true. We can learn from those lessons. We can apply them to our everyday life.
Can't I say the same for Jesus?
Yes, you can. Some of the teachings of Jesus should definitely be followed. We shouldn't throw them all away because he probably isn't real.
Probably. You can't make that claim. You don't say Socrates probably didn't exist. That's what I'm talking about. This double standard here with Socrates and...
Let's be honest here. There are a few fundamental differences between Socrates and Jesus.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
One was real and one wasn't. Wars, murders, many people have fought. They have enslaved other civilizations, tried forced conversion. Were these atrocities done in Socrates' name?
I get it. Jesus
says you could say Socrates may have existed. Couldn't Jesus?
Can you at least admit that?
Of course I can. Yes, a rabbi named Jesus, or maybe Yeshua, God's salvation, I think that one is, could have existed. To be honest, probably did. But a preacher preaching something the established church didn't like at the time, was persecuted, hunted, and ultimately crucified? Sure, I can believe all that.
I sense a but coming.
You're a but.
You are.
Children, please. A but does exist. My belief in Jesus stops at his teachings, and his teachings stop at the Son of God. I don't believe Hercules exists, not just because of his extraordinary strength and the deeds that he did, but because he's the son of Zeus. A man named Hercules could very well have existed. Stronger than most. Maybe he learned techniques to make his already great strength greater, lifting with his knees, using a lever, and of course the stories would then take off.
So now you're going to compare Jesus to Hercules.
So, is it Hercules or Heracles?
I can never remember.
I believe it's Hercules in Greek and Heracles in Roman. But I think that may be a little backwards.
Yes, it could be.
Crap, I'm out.
Oh, I got an extra.
Thank you.
That's
awesome.
You two are so weird.
But, as you were saying, if it doesn't matter if Socrates was real, but it does if Jesus was, I think when you conflate the two, you are being deliberately obtuse. Claiming a philosopher who, according to stories, was a normal man, but learned in philosophy, had different views of philosophy that focused on oneself as opposed to the physical world, is the same as claiming a preacher who preached loving kindness, that the way to know God was through him and that loving kindness. Yeah, I can get on board with that. Those two could be treated the same, should be treated the same. But you are claiming a normal man who existed in antiquity is the same as claiming the Son of God existed in antiquity. Those are not the same concepts. Those are not the same arguments. I thought we were going to talk about Noah today. Noah? Like Noah and the flood? Yeah, we focused on Jesus this entire video, when we could have talked about Noah and how when the flying spaghetti monster flooded his kitchen while cooking. Sure. We should talk about Noah another time. You can both talk about the Noahs that you believe in. Anywho, thank you all for watching. Yeah, maybe next time I won't need to do all the talk. It's your fault for lecturing the whole time. It's not my fault. It's your fault for bringing up the silly memes you find on the Facebook.
You can do the whole YouTube things, me matey.
Those aren't memes.
They're conversation starters.
The whole YouTube thing. Give the video a like. And, leave a comment below.
And,
share the video. Subscribe to the channel, please. And as always,
take care,
and keep safe.